Welcome to the Change Within podcast. My name is Gerard Uselli, and we are on episode 71. Our
Oh, wow.
our first original episodes are coming back to fruition after the Essential series. And from that alone, we have a very special guest for today. No exception to the rule. Good friend, Christina Decarlo. Christina, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I wanted to just get right into it, pretty much in the way that I asked on a lot of the people who have been just formal guests on the show, is what your childhood was like growing up.
It was good. I had a great childhood, actually. I have a younger brother, so it's my parents and myself and my younger brother. I grew up on a really nice block on Staten Island. It was not really a cul-de-sac, but that was like the type of feel that we had. So a lot of like my first friends in the world, that's where I met them. It was like a really cool experience. There were like a bunch of kids my age and my brother's age. So we would always be outside, always running around, getting into something, getting hurt, etc. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then I think I don't remember the exact age, but when my brother and I were both in school, she actually went back to work. She's a guidance counselor. She was guidance counselor at Wagner. And my dad always worked in the city. He was always commuting. He was surprisingly around for a lot of things. He always like made my dance recitals and everything like that, even though he always worked his booty off, let's just say that, to provide an amazing life for my brother and I.
I'll say this much too. Something that I've always said about Staten Island, and I feel like a lot of people hold the same sentiment, is that when it comes down to actually trying to pursue something, you have a lot of people who are more likely to become a support system to you than those who kind of hinder you in the process, especially in family around here. I've noticed, like, especially if you have hobbies when you grow up and you're trying to do things, you'll more likely than less likely get support on a moral standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sounds an interesting place, to say the least.
Yes, very much so. And kind of to put ourselves a little bit further to the New York City type of lifestyle, I wanted to ask you this as a one-off. Tell me, what was it like to go to the city for the first time? Like, do you remember that first New York City experience that you had?
Yeah, I feel like it was a school trip of some sort. Or my dad always brought me to bring your daughter to work day. And I remember taking the express bus with him and just like, I don't know, I felt like really small. Like, I feel like I was also a child though, so I was very small to begin with, but I just feel like New York has this way of like just swallowing you up. Like, you don't know where to look. It's like almost overstimulation. You're just like cars and people everywhere. And like, from what I remember, like just that commute, or like the commuters travel in the morning. It's like you get on the bus and you get off and you got to be somewhere at a certain time. So it's just like this hustle and like everyone's moving. Just kind of felt very chaotic. And then here I am, like this little kid in the world, like holding on to my dad's arm, like, don't lose me.
Did you also feel like when you kind of came back to Staten Island and just kind of comparing the two over time in your life, do you feel like you've always had that different ambiance to just traveling in the city and being around that environment in itself?
Yeah, I never felt like I belonged on Staten Island.
See, and that's something that I find a lot of identity with, as far as just when I talk to different people. It's always interesting when I talk to people and they just feel more acclimated to get out of the island itself.
Yeah,
and the reasons are all variant.
Yeah, I never felt like I really belonged there. I don't know. So I actually came home this past weekend to see a childhood friend of mine, and we were like just driving around, and my family has all since moved. My parents moved to Florida this past year. My brother has two smaller children, and my parents wanted to be grandparents and move to Florida and, actually be able to see their grandkids. So everybody left, and I went back to the island to spend time with my friend, and we were driving around. We even drove past my old house, and I was just like, this seems so weird for me to be back here.
Yeah, and then also in that hindsight, When you feel like you've come back to something that's your hometown, knowing that things have changed over time
Yeah.
with all like the industrial development, you don't even know what to make of your own borough anymore.
Yeah, we were driving and I was like, this is a Starbucks now. This used to be a gas station. There was this beautiful house that was like on Amboy. It was on Amboy and it was across from Foster. And it was this beautiful home. They tore it down and they were building something new there. And I was like,
I live right in that area. That's hilarious that you're talking about
yeah,
this.
I live off
Oh
of
my
Amboy
God.
by
That's
Seguin.
funny.
That's where I grew up. I grew up by like literally the Princess Bay train station was behind our house. The tracks would run, but like behind our house.
So I saw Tottenville pretty much develop itself over time because that's pretty much where I was raised growing up.
Yeah.
And just seeing all the industries like a Target coming to life, like
Yeah.
2007, 2008, it was
Yeah.
it was almost a cultural shock in its like own point.
Yeah. I felt that. I even felt culture shock when I went away to school and I went to come back like on breaks and stuff. I felt like that culture shock as well.
Definitely. And kind of to allude more to like New York City in itself, like what kind of keeps you going back to New York City
Well, I
in
live here now.
retrospect? Okay, so that's fair. I didn't know that in advance. So yes.
Yeah. I moved to be closer to work. I couldn't do the commute anymore. My job's physical. It's tiring. Sitting on a bus for 3+ hours a day it's like time of my life that I was never going to get back. Does
Well,
that make
I'll say this much. When you are able to eliminate the commute and
Yeah.
actually get there as far as just being in your own city, it's the
Yeah,
best
your way
feeling.
of life goes up tremendously.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember just being like, oh my gosh, I have all this free time now. I could sleep in. Like I would have to wake up real early, to get somewhere before like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And now I can wake up at like 8 a.m. to be somewhere at 9 a.m. It's great. I'm only 15, 20 minutes away from everything that I need to be close to.
You got the center of the world in your hands.
I do. I really do. Yeah, no, I live in the city. I guess I forgot to mention that. Yeah, about 4 years now, maybe
Wow,
longer.
that's pretty insane. But I'll say this much. I wanted to ask as far as just the landscapes, especially you doing architecture now.
Mhm.
Like, what was it kind of like to see the buildings in itself or like your first time and just seeing that throughout? Do you still kind of get that essence of shock, just like seeing everything around you like that?
I don't know if it's shock per se.
Because hey, look, you're climbing on them from what I see.
Yeah, it's different. I'm just really up close and intimate with them now, which is really beautiful to see. I don't think I'll ever get tired of that. Yeah.
Kind of to segue a little bit into doing the give a little
Oh yeah, go for it.
I wanted to ask you more about this. So when did that initialize for you and how did you want to bring it to new heights now?
Okay, cool. So I have a partner, my best friend, Caitlin. So it was actually her idea last year during like the pandemic. She was like, I have an idea for a charity. I think I want to do a charity. I really want to do a charity. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And she brought this idea of like having like a clothing line, and the articles of clothing that we're going to make are t-shirts, hoodies, hats, tote bags, fanny packs. I'm a huge fanny pack lover. So I was like, we're definitely adding fanny packs to that. And the articles of clothing are going to have some type of positive, uplifting quote on them. And all of the proceeds are going to go to a charity of the buyer's choosing. So we're partnering with multiple charities right now. We have 2 on board and we're looking for a few more that speak to different, I guess, genres, for lack of a better word. So the one charity that I love to support it's called End Abuse for Good. It's here in New York City and it helps bring women in domestic abuse situations pretty much back on their feet, provides resources and everything for them. So that's something that speaks to me. I mean, as a woman, I've not been in that situation, thank God, but I can understand or empathize at least with women that feel like they have their hands tied behind their back and they don't have a way of getting out of a situation. So I give to that monthly. That's one of the charities we partner with. My partner in the charity, Caitlin, she was a collegiate tennis player. So her charity that she wanted to bring on board was a charity that brings tennis to inner city kids. So she does that. And
That's pretty cool how you've been able to divvy up what your interests are in a way of philanthropy. And something to that point is like, how do you aspire yourself to grow the nonprofits that your organization gives to? How does the research work as far as just how people come to you?
So I've just been word of mouth. We've just been putting it out there, you know. We're working on our website right now. If we have a photo shoot scheduled for this weekend, we're going to be putting out, you know, a bunch of different content, and we just want to be able to help bridge the gap for people that want to donate or do something with a charity and they don't necessarily know how to. So we'll be providing like resources and different things. I feel like we're kind of similar to Tom's, except we don't actually like one person buys a shoe and then another pair of shoes gets sent. It's actually just the proceeds go to a charity. And I want to include different types of charities so that it doesn't necessarily speak to one person. Multiple people can find something that speaks and resonates to them. So basically just word of mouth. I mean, this
Sure. And a final question on this too is, what's kind of like your pipeline goal as far as how many different nonprofits you want to support over time?
I think we're going to start out with 5 right now. Caitlin, if you eventually listen, you can correct me. But it's just her and I right now, with the help of one of her friends, Sal, who's helping us with the website and photos and everything, which is great. But, you know, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. You know, I guess a controlled growth, if whatever that means. And just being able to manage that, you know, instead of just like trying to do everything at once, which is really easy to do that in anything in life. And then you like step back and you're like very overwhelmed, you know.
I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to doing things at once, and I've learned this the hard way many times myself, this is the inevitability of doing so. That's where your biggest changes come about. Because
I know
because you realize how many mistakes you make over time. And then even though it's clockwork that you're bound to make them again, you're just like, okay, I have to change it up now. I have to see how else it's going to be in the cycle.
Yeah. I think that's how we're going to start. I don't know. She could correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking on behalf of the both of us right now, so hopefully I'm on the right track. We're pretty in sync, so I don't think I'm that far off, honestly.
There we go. You're gonna look at like your meetings, like with like the organization, and you're just gonna revert back to this video and be like, okay, we're not gonna do it like this. We're gonna do it.
We're not gonna do it like that.
I'm kidding about that. But nonetheless, I wanted to ask you this, something that I've never really seen too much on Instagram because I'm big with it on social media. You say that you're a legacy creator. How do you think people remember you for like what your impression is to people?
Oh, goodness. Yeah. It's half a joke, but also like half true. I think I was being a bit facetious. I don't know. I just feel like people don't remember necessarily what you say to them. They remember how they feel after they leave you, you know, unless it's something like crazy where you remember verbatim what somebody said. But I don't know. I just want people to feel like positive after meeting me. I want to feel like I had some impact, whether that's small or large. I think that's really the root of why Caitlin and I created this charity. You know, we want to leave our mark on the world. In one way or another, whether that, you know, we're going to be a huge charity. We're going to be huge. I'm putting that out into the world, but if we're not, that's okay too. If I'm able to impact somebody somewhere, then I'm good with that. Like, I guess that's where the legacy creator comes in. And also like for when I have a family of my own, you know, I want it to be remembered. Like I want people to know who we are, and a small or large scale. I always said I have to be famous. So I think it's going to be on a large scale, but if not.
So when you get big and famous from your organization, you know what you're going to say? Revert back to this video.
I want to put that out in the world that I'm going to be like a famous person that people like know, you know, like Beyonce level. But if I don't ever reach that, I'll be okay also, because I'm good with just making a small impact on people and just having people remember that I did something positive for them. And for anyone that I ever didn't do anything positive, I apologize. You have an off day here and there.
So that does kind of reassure me of a subliminal apology for the same sentiments that I haven't done for people over time as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people are people, right? We're humans. We're allowed to have off days. I've had my fair share of off days where you want to give so much of yourself, but you haven't given yourself that actual time to recharge. And if I apologize for what I said when I wasn't fully recharged or wasn't operating at my full capacity. But one thing that somebody actually said recently to me, which kind of stuck out, was that I was a light. So the fact that people meet me, and then after they've met me can say that about me, that really means a lot.
Well, something to that point too is I can just tell by the way that you brand yourself over time, like there is a radiance to who your personality kind of entails itself to be.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I work really hard.
Definitely. And before I get into the last question, I wanted to subvert a little bit. I wanted to ask you this because we were very New York City bound. What's the most random but cool event that you've been to in the 4 years that you've lived here? I'm sure that we all have like that one-off kind of like, whoa, I can't believe I'm here.
I feel like I can't say this. I'll get in trouble.
I got you.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the second coolest thing that I've done. I feel like those nights that aren't necessary, like if we're talking about like a night out, I don't know why I go to night out, but if you're talking about that, like those just like nights that aren't necessarily planned and you don't have like any real direction, or like it's the nights that like you don't expect to go well,
Absolutely.
it's like, and where you're just open to whatever can happen. I don't know if I have like a pinpoint night, but in terms of like not nightlife stuff, I get to touch some really cool buildings in the city. So I repelled the Flatiron building a few years ago, and that was pretty standout to me.
That's pretty insane. I'm so, like, you just had to say it as one sentence and it just speaks volumes that way.
Yeah.
Something for me that kind of stood out was maybe 5 years ago at this point, I was able to get into Fashion Week, and I have no business in being in Fashion Week. So I literally had someone contact me that I've worked with, just getting like venue coverage for a film festival. I did this maybe like 2014, 2015, and he randomly invited me and a guest to go to Fashion Week on like Monday and Tuesday. And I was literally just like, I didn't even know how to like react to it because it was just so.
Did you know how to dress?
Yeah, sure. I knew how to dress that night. Absolutely. I just had this background to make me look better. That's what happened.
That's funny. Yeah, Fashion Week's fun. I went actually this past year. One of my friends had a show for his clothing line.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. It's kind of when you go to like a Fashion Week or something, you kind of be like, of course you want to feel like you're part of the competition as far as just like standing out and having style to you and everything like that.
Yeah.
But when you look around you, not to say that it puts you down, but it's kind of like, wow, like the realm of innovation, like it has higher and higher plateaus.
Yeah. That industry is very cutthroat also.
Yes, I can only imagine stories of that. But nonetheless, I wanted to ask you a final question that I always ask my other guests too. What's the biggest change you want to see for yourself?
I wrote this one down. I took notes. Well, I took notes on everything. I had to really think about some of these. I want to, I guess growth. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like growth is like a really generic term, but I don't think we're ever really done growing. This one quote, I can't remember who said it. Don't remember where I got it from. Got it from a book somewhere probably. If you're not growing, you're dying. That always stuck out to me. In terms of like a big change. Just like financial freedom, financial independence, just being able to live off of a passive income and not one where I'm going out and working every day, although my job is cool. There's only so long I can do that, physically. So yeah, just that, and just being able to make a difference, whatever that difference is. But I feel like if I have more time, more resources, I'll be able to make a bigger difference than I am right now.
Well,
So
to
just that.
conclude on that note, something that I want to say too is growth is one of those general and holistic terms that should never be overlooked. Growth
Yeah.
happens and it's channeled in its own ways per
Yeah.
individual. And no matter what that ideal is for somebody, for them to get from point A to point B is its own journey in itself. So for people
Yeah.
to have their pathways to get there, it's pretty much their mission as far as what steps and hurdles are expected and to be gone through to get there. But nonetheless, that finalizes episode 71 for the Change of Fin
Oh,
podcast. For those who want to
yeah.
check us out, you can please do so on Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Christina, thank you very much for joining me today and have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But